Hey everybody, today we're making cheesy potatoes and I want you to stay with me through the entire video because you're going to be surprised at what we're going to top these potatoes with before we put them in the oven to bake. It only calls for 6 ingredients, the recipe, and it's going to be delicious. This pairs really well with any meat that you can imagine. It pairs well with pork, with chicken, with steak. Or if you just want to have a vegetable plate, this would be great. So let's get busy, and I'm going to tell you to begin with what we're going to need. Make sure we have all of our ingredients, and we'll get it in the oven in just the blink of an eye. Let's go over the ingredients real quickly to make sure that we have everything that we need before we get started. Today I'm using red potatoes, and I have 6 probably medium-sized potatoes here, and I do love to use the red potatoes. I'll be using butter, I'll be using milk, I'll be using grated cheese, and I'll be using heavy-duty or heavy whipping cream. And the 6th ingredient, if you want to add a little salt, you can do that. If you don't want to add salt, if you're using salted butter and you have the cheese here, and you don't want to add salt, then you have a 5-ingredient dish that we're about to make. Our potatoes are done. I have drained them in my colander. They are still hot, and while they're hot, I'm transferring them into my mixing bowl. I'm going to be using my my stand mixer to whip up our potatoes. Now, while the potatoes are still hot, I'm going to add our butter, and I'm adding 6 tablespoons of butter. I can't remember if I told you or not, but I used 6 potatoes. I think I might have told you that, but just in case I didn't, I used 6 of the red potatoes. So I'm just going to start mixing the potatoes and the butter. And I know you're thinking, well, you're just making creamed potatoes. Well, you're exactly right. But just wait, hang with me, because we're going to top these. Now, I'm going to go ahead and add my milk. I want to cream these until there are no lumps in the potatoes, but I'm adding a 1/2 cup of whole milk. So just pouring that in. And normally, if you're just making creamed potatoes for your family, you would want to heat your milk because you would want to serve your potatoes warm and hot. But because I'm going to be baking this in the oven, then if you forget to take your milk out or you don't think to warm it, it's okay. You can just use cold milk because it will be going in the oven. So now, while this creams, I'll take you to the next step, and we'll prepare our topping to go on top of the potatoes. So now we have creamed potatoes, and we're going to transfer these into a baking dish. This is probably about a 2-quart baking dish that I have here, and I sprayed it, and I have heated my oven to 375 degrees. 375 degrees. So I'm just placing our potatoes in the bowl, just like this. I wonder if any of you have guessed what we're going to do next. Oh, this is so good. I made some the other night for me and Doug, and he loved it. And of course I did too. So it was delicious. I think you're going to love it too. So anyway, we're moving forward. Let me wipe my hands off. And I'm going to set this aside for right now. So now I'm going to bring this bowl right here, and we're going to work on our whipping cream. So this is a pint of whipping cream, which is 2 cups of whipping cream. And I'm just going to place it in the bowl, pour it in the bowl. Next, I'm going to grab my hand mixer and I'm going to whip this cream until it becomes a whipped topping. I don't want to whip it to the point that it becomes butter. So I'm going to whip this, and when I get it whipped, then I'll come back and we'll add our cheese and we'll finish up our cheesy potatoes to go in the oven. Our whipped cream is ready. Look at that. I could eat that probably by itself. So now we're going to add our cheese. The recipe calls for a cup of grated cheese, and of course I have more than that. You can put as much or as little as you want to, and so you just want to stir your cheese into the whipped cream, mixing it all up. Turn in your bowl as you go so that it's all evenly distributed within the cream, within the whipped topping. I know you're wondering, how in the world is that going to turn out? How's it going to look? So how's it going to taste? Well, I can tell you that it tastes delicious. So now let's bring back our creamed potatoes we have right here, and we're going to put our whipped topping with the cheese on top. Now, I know that you're thinking, I surely hope that she shows this coming out of the oven. Well, you know, I always do that for you. I like to do that because I can make it, and if you don't know how it looks, then we've really not accomplished a lot, have we? Or I like to see, and a lot of people tell me that, and they tell me that's why they love my cookbook, is because I have a picture of every food that I made in the cookbook, and it's the actual food that I made. It's not Photoshop by no means. So I would never do that. Okay, so here we go. We have our cheesy potatoes ready to go in the oven on 375 degrees. I'm going to bake this for probably 30 to 45 minutes. I will check it and I'll talk you through it as we go through the baking process. Our cheesy potatoes have baked for 45 minutes, and after 20 minutes I laid a piece of foil over the top because my oven cooks hot and the cheese began to get too brown. So I just laid a piece of foil over it and I baked this for 45 minutes. Now this is going to be wet. So what we need to do is to take it out of the oven and let it rest, probably 30 minutes. This is really, really hot. The cream, of course, melted and will go down into the potatoes. So it needs to rest before we serve it. Our cheesy potatoes have been out of the oven for about 30 minutes. And they are still very, very hot. But we're going to dip into them and see how they taste. See, they're still really, really hot. So I'm just going to look how creamy that is. Oh my goodness, I almost need a bowl for this. Oh, that looks so good. Going to get a little bit of that cheese right there. Turn that over. Look at that. This is going to be so, so good, y'all. It's really, really hot. But the longer it sits or sets, then it'll become more firm. But it has this luscious whipping cream. It has the potatoes, the butter, the milk, and it's just going to be ever so delightful. So now let's taste it. Thank you for joining me in my kitchen today, for helping me to make these cheesy potatoes. Y'all, these are the lightest cream potatoes I have ever had in my life. That is the truth. I wouldn't mislead you at all. I hope you'll try the recipe. And like I said, let it sit for a little bit longer before you serve it, and it'll become a little bit more stiff, a little firmer. But y'all, it's so, so good. That needs a little more salt for me. And you know, I'm cutting back on sodium, but it's so, so good. Thank you for watching today. I hope you have a blessed day. Be sure and try the recipe. If you're not going to try it yourself, share it with someone else because they might like to share it. And also watch our videos. I'll see you again really, really soon.